Hi guys, it's Sophie. So I'm going to be doing a really quick March reading update, like wrap up. I haven't done a lot of reading this month. That's because of lots of things. I've been quite stressed this month and I find it much harder to get into reading when I'm stressed, and I downloaded Stardew Valley, so I've only got a few to talk to you about, but I'm just going to go through them and not do them too long, just try and keep it just the same as normal. So the first two I listened to on audiobook, and I've done a whole audiobook discussion video that you might want to check out if you haven't already. I talked about both of these in there, and that is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid and The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, again by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I loved both of them. They are brilliant. I'm kind of a little bit like obsessed with Daisy Jones and I want to get like a t-shirt or something with it on it. But yeah, if I just kind of briefly synopsize those in case you haven't seen the other video. Daisy Jones and the Six is about a band called the Six and a woman who's kind of like a solo artist called Daisy Jones, and we look at kind of their interaction over this period. Lots of people say it's pretty much based on Fleetwood Mac, which I found really interesting, but it's told as an oral history, so there's no description, it's all just dialogue back and forth. And what makes it so interesting is obviously no one remembers their past like exactly the same as someone else, so there's quite a lot of discrepancies in just minor ways to show that you can't really trust any of the narratives. It was just brilliant and really unique, so if you haven't read it yet I'd recommend checking it out. And audio was such a good way to read it because it was just like they're all voice acted, but it kind of, because of the like way that I'm quite used to listening to podcasts and people telling their own stories, I really fell into the trap that it was completely real. And The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo is about a woman who has 7 husbands. She is a very famous kind of old school movie star and she's selling her life story to an up and coming journalist, and it's really an LGBTQ love story, but it's brilliant and definitely check that one out as well. And then moving on to physical books, I read Faces in the Water by Janet Frame, which is a story about a youngish woman who finds herself in a psychiatric hospital, and it's a little bit historical, so what goes on in the hospital seems quite alien to me, who's been in a hospital. But the thing I really enjoyed about this book was her way of telling the story, and she writes in this way that you aren't really sure if she's just very arty and beautiful in the way that she thinks about things in terms of the kind of poeticism of it, or whether it's madness and the metaphors are not metaphors, that's what she thinks is real. I found it quite a slow book, but then that could be because I've been reading slower for the last few weeks, but I did really like this one, and I think it's a really like different way of telling a story. It's not autobiographical, but the authors had similar experiences, so it has a kind of closeness to it that you can imagine with that playing in. And then I read The Fire Gospel by Michel Faber, and sadly I was disappointed in this one. I loved the other 3 Michel Fabers I've read, 2 of which I've read really recently, and I got this one from an indie bookshop near where I grew up, and I wanted to pick it up because I really just want to support that bookshop and keep it there, and I thought this one might be good. It's about a man who is a translator from Aramaic who finds a collection of scrolls in a Iraqi museum that gets blown up as he's negotiating with the curator for some other exhibitions, and it's a lost gospel of the Bible. I think it was a good idea, it didn't really hit with me and I found bits of it quite boring, so I wouldn't recommend that one. The next is one I picked up really hoping to like and didn't get on with it really, and that is So Much for That Winter by Dorthe Nors. I have actually read Mirror Shoulder Signal by Dorthe Nors and I didn't love it, so maybe I should have been like less enthusiastic going in. But I was interested because it's written in list form, which I thought was really unusual. I actually enjoyed the first novella a lot more, which is one continuous story written in one continuous list, and then there's one at the end which is one story told in lots of lists, and that to be honest just confused me. I still didn't love the book overall, even though I liked the first one. I only gave it 2 stars out of 5. I know other people really like her, so that's that. And the next one I finally caught up with, Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Makura, and yeah, it's really good. It's about a woman who's in her like late 20s who's working this like part-time job in a convenience store, and it's about society's like pressures around her to move on from that and get married or get a better job. Yeah, I did enjoy it. I don't know if it's like one that will stick with me. It did chime quite a lot with me as I was reading it though, because I worked part-time in a supermarket when I was in my early 20s, so I kind of remembered a lot about the like culture of that. And I do think it's really well done. I think it's a quick read that's funny and like you can get into it really quickly and it's well done, so I would recommend it. I just don't know if it's one I'll like think about further from reading it, if you know what I mean. And the last one is one I got for review, and this year I'm doing all my review books as standalone videos, and I would have done this one as a standalone video but for the content, so I'm going to try and talk about it in such a way that my video doesn't get like demonetized or blocked by YouTube. But this is Womanhood, The Bare Reality by Dodsworth, and this is talking about women and it's so hard to do it without triggering the YouTube gods, but basically girls and their bits and the names people use for them, what their relationship is with them, sort of how they feel about how they look. And the reason why I didn't want to do a whole review video on this is because it's essentially a photo series, so again I can't really show you because I feel like YouTube will probably be cross, but they have a woman sort of standing not dissimilar to here, with like a full front image, and then they have close-up images of the same woman next to that with her text and her story told in between. And she's done two other books. One is about boobs and one is about boys' bits, and yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was really important. I kind of wish this book was something that you'd find like in schools, and the same for boys, but obviously you'd be worried about what they'd be using it for. But I don't know, like I think it'd be good in like a sex ed class. It just, for me it was the kind of thing where I just thought I didn't know that there was such variety and such difference, and people felt so many different ways about it and what it did for them. And yeah, I really want to read the boy version at some stage soon, and yeah, if you're interested at all, do read it. I've actually recommended it to a few people, but it's a bit of a weird one because it's hard to recommend because it's so like intense as a recommendation, but it is, I think it's really important, and if you've ever struggled with the way that you might look in that way, I think this will be quite helpful for you. So that's it, that's all the books I read in March. There is still like 2 days left, so who knows, maybe I'll like just manage to turn it round and read like 10 books today or something. But I'm just kind of letting it be for the time being. I feel like my brain is in so many different places at the moment. I'm doing well just to bring it back down just for a few books, so no judgment on myself that it's less than my normal. I know that lots of people's normals are different, but it's less than my normal. But that's fine because other stuff's going on. My brain needs energy to do other things. Yeah, let me know what you think of the books down below. I'll be interested to see whether or not I still triggered YouTube's like police setting. But we'll see. I may well have. If I do, it's not the end of the world, but I was just trying not to do that, and also trying to make sure it doesn't get like restricted and stuff so people can't see it, because I think it's fine. Yeah, anyway, I'll see you guys soon in another video. I'm going to be still putting up one a week for the time being, because again my brain is full of stuff and I'm trying to get on and do life things at the moment, and I've got quite low energy. So I will see you guys next week. I don't know what I'm going to film yet, it might be like a TBR or something, but yes, I will see you again there soon, and look after yourselves until then. Bye!